In Argentina, citizens began one of the largest protests yet against the libertarian government, demanding adequate funding for public universities. The president of Venezuela met with the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Karim Khan, in the framework of his fourth official visit to the country. And the Israeli aggression against the Gaza Strip has been going on for 200 days, leaving thousands of dead, wounded, and a food and health crisis. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Argentina, university students mobilized together with teachers and former students in rejection of the fund cuts promoted by Milei's administration. The student movement of the University of Buenos Aires, along with other public and private institutions, began to gather at different points of the capital. University movements and other social organizations are taking to the streets all over the country to defend the public university against the cuts promoted by the President Milei. In different parts of the country, concentrations have already begun, while mobilizations in defense of the public higher education will reach their peak this afternoon in the capital city.
Well, from a student's point of view, we are already having hard time with what we are going through with regard with the bus fares and the price hikes. And the truth is that the average lower middle class students is having a hard time, and on top of what we are afraid that the schools will close down. There are students that have class on the 15th floor. Imagine going up the stairs. It is totally sad. Imagine that we are the future of the country. The future doctor will at some point be in our hands. Here they are defending to be able to continue providing quality service, mainly from the people who have it. I think this is what we have to reinforce the most. This is for everyone, not just for us.
Medicine students also joined the large rallies to reject Milei's policies and defend the right to a high-level education.
I'm Augustin. I'm from the National University of La Plata. We study medicine, and we are both finishing by the middle of the year. We are already doctors, and we started and finished in the public university. So we are supporting the mobilization, and we hope that this possibility continues for everyone as we had it. That's why we came to support the cause.
Earlier on Wednesday, public higher education authorities ratified the holding of the Federal University March. While calling for dialogue with the national government, they stood firm by their demands. Among the demands, we can find the university budget, which has not been updated since 2023, in a context of soaring inflation, as well as the salary backlog of the university and pre-university teachers, which is more than 50% respect to the last update in November. Students also demand funding for scholarships and programs related to science, technology, and research. At last, the scholars also want to bring to the spotlight the absence of enough budget to maintain university infrastructure. For its part, the government spokesman Manuel Adorni stated that the conversation on the topic is closed. Hours earlier, the president of Argentina, Javier Milei, called for a national broadcast in which he congratulated himself for the budget surplus of 0.2%. The banging of pots and pans accompanied his recorded statement, which he delivered flanked by his economic team on Monday night. He then read a series of macroeconomic data with which he intended to demonstrate compliance with the goal of the monetary fund. In addition to the spontaneous protest, experts have commented commented that this alleged win rests on the 43% adjustment of pensions, 92% of medicines, and the historic cut that will take the university students to the streets on Tuesday.
I want to say to all Argentines that I understand that the situation we are living is hard, but also that we have already gone more than halfway. This is the last stretch of a heroic effort that we Argentines are making, and for the first time in a long time this time the effort will be.
The rallies against the administration of the President of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, did not stop the pension reform. 72% of the 95 articles were approved. In the plenary session of the Senate, 14 new articles were approved. The ones standing out are those related to the draft of the Colombian administration of pensions called Pensiones, disability pension and its financing, the private funds and administration of the saving funds by the Republic Bank. Minister of Labor Gloria Inés Ramírez expressed her confidence that this Tuesday the regulation would be definitely approved. Some senators commented on the maneuvers of legislators who opposed the reform and used delaying tactics during the session.
We have made progress on Tuesday in the approval of 72 articles, including the new article related to the administration of the savings fund of the contributory pillar under the Republican Bank. So this Tuesday that we were not very positive, we have approved about 14 articles. We hope to continue with the 23 articles that we would be completing on Wednesday. We are doing very well. We have made progress despite the delays, despite trying to break the quorum, in spite of the fact that senators come and support their proposals, and then they leave by the time of casting their votes. We have had a positive balance on Tuesday.
The President of Venezuela met with the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Karim Khan, in the framework of his fourth official visit to the country. During the meeting, the prosecutor thanked the Venezuelan president for his commitment to allow the United Nations High Commissioner's office to return to the country. The Venezuelan head of state indicated that a delegation from the court will arrive in the country in 3 weeks to provide technical assistance, while applauding the advances in cooperation between the court and the Venezuelan government. The Chamber of Deputies of Mexico approved on Monday in general and in particular reforms to create the Welfare Pension Fund. With 252 votes in favor from the Morena Labour Party and Ecologist Green parties and 212 against and 4 abstentions, the fund was approved, which will be integrated with 40 billion pesos, equivalent to more than $2.3 million from the transfer of savings of the inactive individual accounts. The parliamentary duel prior to the approval was centered between those who defend the banking sector and the big fortunes and those who defend the working people. During their intervention, the Morena parliamentarians recalled the unfair history of pensions in the country.
With Ernesto Zedillo until 2007, with Felipe Calderon, the pensions of the Mexican people reached up to 30%. This means, I will put it easy so that the opposition deputies understand me, that for every 10 pesos they received no more than 3 pesos, and this means that it was not before, and they still had the luxury of saying that they had the expiration date to collect these afores. And during this time another type of administration started, and it was when the afores appeared. Well, with a good intention to give them a good purpose and a good profit for those pensioners.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. In Lebanon, the Hezbollah resistance attacked the Israeli army headquarters near the coastal city of Acre after 200 days of Israeli genocide. Through a statement, the Islamic resistance detailed that it used decoy drones and explosives to carry out the attacks against the base inside Israel. Hezbollah confirmed that the airstrike targeted the Golani Brigade headquarters and the Egos 62 unit in the Sharaga barracks north of the occupied city of Akka. The resistance claimed that the objectives of the military strike were met and stated that these military actions are a response to the Israeli attacks on the town of Adlon and the killing of one of its fighters. The Israeli aggression against the Gaza Strip has been going on for 200 days, leaving thousands of dead, wounded, and a food and health crisis. According to Gaza authorities, the Israeli occupation has not achieved any of its strategic objectives and has once succeeded in razing the Strip to the ground, killing thousands of people. Government authorities denounced the total or partial destruction of most of the buildings, health centers, homes, and schools in the region due to the attacks. They also warned that 80% of the agricultural sectors has been destroyed, aggravating the hunger and health crisis in the area. Police arrested over 130 people on Monday night and early Tuesday morning at the New York University campus during pro-Palestinian protest. According to local sources, police began detaining demonstrators at a university encampment after an order to disperse was refused by the protesters, who breached the barriers erected around the encampment. Other prestigious universities in the nation have also been rocked by rallies in recent weeks amid sweeping debates over Israel's war on Gaza since October 7th. The protest began last week at Columbia University, also in New York, with a large group of demonstrators establishing a so-called Gaza Solidarity encampment on school grounds.
No, I definitely am all for it. Definitely, I think Columbia is too powerful to be too silent, and yeah, and I feel like a lot of the powerful people are silent. So yeah, it's nice to kind of poke at the bear.
I feel at first very overwhelmed when there's like police enforcement here, and then I felt scared when I was watching footage on social media. And now, like, seeing this, everything looks very peaceful, and I feel like, oh yeah, like, this is acceptable, like, this is even empowering, and yeah, I think people should, like, if they're students, they should come and pay a visit and see, oh, what it's actually like.
In Pakistan, the president of Iran, Ebrahim Raisi, has so far visited the cities of Lahore and Karachi as part of his official visit to the South Asian country. The president continues his visit to Pakistan, holding a meeting with the Prime Minister of Punjab province, Maryam Nawaz Sharif. Raisi assured that relations between the two countries continue to grow despite attempts by some countries to damage the friendly relations between the two nations. The Iranian head of state stressed that the exchange of knowledge and capabilities is the basis of strengthening ties between the two nations. In the UK, the Parliament approved the government's plan to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda, a move that has been described by the United Nations as a gross violation of human rights. Lawmakers included a series of amendments that the House of Lords voted favorably on. In this way, they stated that Rwanda is a safe destination despite the violence reported in recent months. Before the parliamentary resolution, the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak assured that with or without the approval of that body, the deportation flights would begin in the coming month. This plan, initially proposed by former Minister Boris Johnson in 2022, had been rejected by the High Court and slammed by human rights experts.
Once the processing is complete, we will physically remove people. And to do that, I can confirm that we've put an airfield on standby, booked commercial charter planes for specific slots, and we have 500 highly trained individuals ready to escort illegal migrants all the way to Rwanda, with 300 more trained in the coming weeks.
Let's see what the Rwanda plan of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's government consists of. As an immigration measure, is a program to deport undocumented migrants entering the country. The aim of the Rwanda plan is to stop migrants arriving in the UK without documents and on boats illegally. In Rwanda, migrants could apply for asylum and settle long-term in the African country, but would not be able to return to the UK. The Rwandan government said the migrants would be entitled to full protection under Rwandan law, equal access to employment and enrollment in health and social care services. In this sense, the British government is also looking for other locations in Africa and Latin America to send its undocumented migrants. In this context, in Rwanda, at least 5 people died crossing the channel a few hours after the United Kingdom passed the migrant deportation bill. The bodies were discovered on the beach of Wimerox in northern France. In the operation, which is still ongoing, about 100 migrants have been rescued and put on board a French Navy ship. This came just hours after British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's latest attempt to send some migrants on a one-way ticket to Rwanda finally won parliamentary approval. Human rights groups have described the legislation as cruel. Both the United Nations Refugee Agency and the Council of Europe called on the United Kingdom to reconsider its plan for fear that they could undermine international cooperation in tackling the global migrant crisis. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Spain, Alberto González Amador, partner of the President of the Community of Madrid, Isabel Díaz Ayuso, accepted in full to having committed tax fraud in order to avoid trial against him and reduce the possibility of ending up in prison. The lawyer of Díaz Ayuso's partner issued a document in which the accused would accept a sentence of 8 months for committing 2 tax crimes and the payment of a fine of 520,000 euros. For its part, the Spanish Public Prosecutor's Office rejected the first proposal of assumption of guilt, as the Public Prosecutor's Office intends that González Amador's defense admits another crime for false documentation based on the alleged use of a false invoicing scheme. On Tuesday, the newly elected president of Senegal, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, affirms that his administration seeks to renew relations with the European community. In this sense, Senegal's new leader, in the framework of a meeting in Dakar with the president of the European Council, Charles Michel, made it clear that any ongoing cooperation and partnership with the European bloc would be renewed. Faye recently announced the renegotiation of oil and gas contracts and hopes to do the same with the fisheries agreements already signed. Precisely, the Senegal government will pursue a development model from within, focusing on agriculture, livestock, and fisheries, and strengthening infrastructure such as railroads, electricity grids, telecommunications, and roads.
It is true that cooperation is dense and multifaceted, but together we want to build a partnership that is rethought, renewed, and enriched by a shared vision of a fairer international order that reflects the realities of today's world. A partnership that is adapted to changing circumstances and capable of supporting the innovative dynamic that we want to imprint on our relations.
Number of Kenyans impacted by the above-average rains in the country continues to rise. According to a Red Cross latest update, 35 people have died in floods since mid-March, while over 100,000 have been affected. The international organization also reported the destruction of crops and the damage of infrastructure, schools, homes, and small businesses. Kenyan officials and humanitarian agencies have called on the population to avoid flooded areas, move to higher ground, and avoid driving when it rains heavily. The nation's meteorological department forecasts more heavy rainfall this week. In China, at least 4 people have died and 10 are missing following heavy rains that have lashed several regions of the southern province of Canton in recent days. 3 deaths were recorded in Shanqing City, one of the areas where search and rescue operations are still ongoing, which also include the cities of Shaoguan, Canton, Huiyuan, among others. The 4th fatality is a member of the rescue teams who lost his life in Shaoguan City. The rains have forced the evacuation of a total of 110,000 people, of whom 25,800 have had to be urgently relocated. Let's look at some of the data provided by local agencies. They report 36 houses have collapsed, while 48 others have been severely damaged, resulting in a direct economic loss of almost $19.4 million. Heavy rains have caused rivers in the region to swell, with 38 hydrological stations on 24 rivers in the province recording water levels above the warning threshold. More than 200 sanitation workers have been deployed to clear streets, drains and canals. China has a 4th color weather warning system, with red being the most severe, followed by orange, yellow and blue. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.